Hey guys, this is Pat
And I'm Heidi.
from Rain Country, and today we wanted to talk a little bit about
Detoxifying our lives.
that's right, and we want to open this up to other channels. We're welcoming other people in the self-reliant homesteading community to jump in here because I found out a lot of our topics are very similar, if not the same. But each channel has their own way of shining light on even some of the same subjects. A lot of us don't like the GMO. We like fresh. We like to grow our own food. We like to know where it comes from and all these different things. So we want to take this just a little bit different direction and share with you guys what we have done or are doing to detoxify our lives.
The main focus I was going to talk about today, and Patrick's going to talk about some other stuff as well. And there's many different sub areas under this, but I want to start with food. So I had a subscriber ask me recently if I'd do a video on where to start for those who are new to detoxifying. And I say start with your food. And what's the main thing that we need to avoid when it comes to food? What's the first thing we should cut out?
Oh, everything from the center aisle of the store.
Pretty much.
Anything with more than one ingredient. Things that are out of a box, things that are easy to prepare. Those are just generic.
Yeah, there's healthy foods that can be easy to prepare.
Yeah,
but
like I say, that's just just a shotgun approach at it.
Just add water kind of thing. Yeah, pretty much anything that comes out of a box needs to be discarded. So it really is learning how to cook and bake things from scratch. Don't be buying your pre-made cornbread and your pre-made cake mixes and your pre-made chilies and soups. Start reading ingredients and learn what these things are in your food. Even the things that are labeled as organic and healthy. I'll give you a quick example. There was a short period of time where I was doing the vegan thing. And though that diet may be great for many people, it wasn't ideal for me. But one of the biggest mistakes I made on the vegan diet, thinking I was being healthy, was buying the garden burger. But never paid attention to what the ingredients were until I got tired of the price and decided I wanted to figure out how to make my own vegan burger. And I read the ingredients just so I could find out what was in it. And I was actually shocked. And that was before I even knew how bad soy was for you. I was thinking the soy was the healthiest product in there. No, it was all bad. And so I did come up with my own vegan burger that turned out pretty good for the most part, and had I stuck with it, I'd probably be a recipe I'd share, but it was too long ago, so I don't remember. Sorry, people. But so even if you think you're buying something that's healthy, just because it's labeled as healthy, organic, and all that doesn't mean it is. If it's already pre-made, most likely you are not getting a healthy product. Same thing with your nut milks. Most of the nut milks you buy in the store, organic nut milks, you think if it says organic, we immediately think that means healthy. Well, it may be organic, and it may have all organic ingredients in it, but it doesn't mean those ingredients were meant to be ingested, such as soy and carrageenan. A lot of the stuff is bad for you. So you really need to learn how to make these things yourselves. I do have videos on how to make your own nut milk, which is super, super easy and much cheaper and much healthier for you. So that's just one example.
I don't think she's necessarily saying that everything vegan is bad or everything that you buy in the vegan section is bad, but I think what Mrs. Rain is trying to illustrate here is, getting a habit of reading your packaging and making sure what you're ingesting is indeed healthy. Because advertisers, that's their big thing, is to draw you in and try to get you to buy that thing just because it says GMO free or organic or healthy
or has a picture of a
health right,
farm.
or exactly has a pretty picture of a farm with some, free-ranging chickens on there. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're actually free-ranging out in a pasture someplace with an acre per chicken. A lot of times when they're free-ranging, they're caged up, in a building
in a
building
barn,
someplace,
and
and they're all
crammed in there
crammed together.
tight.
So anyway, that's a whole different
No light, no
different
air.
subject, but it's not getting that bad.
Well, it is part of this. It is important though, because we talked about shopping the perimeter of the store. Well, even in your perimeter, you got to watch what you're buying. Now, a lot of you out there are already growing your own, raising your own meat, and you
Grass-fed.
have your own dairy, and that's great. But for those of us who are not in a place where we can raise our own meat and dairy, we have our chickens for our eggs, but then we have to find other sources for our meat that are healthy. And I'm not just going to go to the grocery store and buy whatever meat's there. I want to look what's in there, because the meats that you buy are often, they've been injected with all kinds of hormones and antibiotics, and the meat is not healthy in the first place because the way the animals were treated. And so
and fed.
there's something called top shelf meat, which I always used to think just meant it was the most expensive meat, but there's more to it than that. A lot of times the meat that you find on the top shelf is going to be your healthier meat. And you still want to try to look and see if you can find grass-fed, as organically raised as possible. So for us, the meats that we have are either wild-caught meats, like wild-caught salmon and steelhead and cod and halibut, things like that. And some of this is stuff what people have, friends and family have caught and given us, or we've bartered for, or we've caught ourselves. And also wild deer and elk meat, which Mr. Rain did get a deer this year, so we've got lots of really good healthy deer meat in our freezer. And but things like that, we know these things were out in the wild, living the way they should live, eating the things they should eat. So these are going to be the healthiest meat choices. As far as fruits and vegetables, if you're not already growing your own, or you are growing your own, but there's still certain things you like to buy at the store, go as organic as possible and learn about your Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. And each year that list changes a little bit. You're going to have your top, if you're trying to save a little bit of money, you can go not organic on certain things like your citruses and bananas, and they're still going to be cleaner. That's why they're called the Clean 15. But the things that are in the Dirty Dozen are things you specifically need to buy organic or don't buy at all. So certain things I will not buy in the store if I cannot get it organic would be any kind of bell pepper, strawberries. When I buy citrus, even though that's part of the Clean 15, when it comes to oranges and lemons, I do try to get organic as much as possible so that I can use the peels. I won't use the peels off of non-organic citrus. So there's another example of things as far as your food. And again, right now, I'm just focusing on food. So this is a very broad topic. I do plan on doing follow-up videos on this because this all plays into how Mr. Rain and I were able to get off of our thyroid medication that we were both on for 15 years, and that's synthetic thyroid medication. We were also taking allergy pills daily that were over the counter, but we were taking them every day. And that was the first thing we cut, and just learned to start eating healthier, eating more natural, eating more organic. And we don't need allergy medicine at all. My allergies, I know for me, got better just simply by quit taking the drugs. And so that's another way. See, this plays into that step, is as you start eating better and feeding your body right, then you're less likely to need the medications that are also a toxin to your body. Because all those medications do is cure symptoms. They don't actually take care of the dis-ease that is in the body. And so you've got to cure the dis-ease that's caused from whatever other toxins you're exposing it to, whether it be what's in your water, what's in your air, what's in your food, what you're putting on your skin, what you're living around, the things you're wearing. So for us, the food we've done pretty good with. We're still working on certain other areas. You know, we've done really good for the past several years with medications because we don't take any anymore. We rely either on just eating healthy or the medicinal herbs that I grow in my garden, organically, of course.
And that's not saying that if you're on a medication that's, you're absolutely wrong.
Yeah, you don't want to just stop taking medications.
Right. I mean, everybody's body's different. Some people can do well with just eating fruits and vegetables and no meat at all. Some people, their bodies really aren't designed to do that. Medications, we're against them, but don't feel that you're absolutely having to cut those out if everybody's got a different situation. So what we're telling you or suggesting to you isn't necessarily the right thing for you. We're trying to share you some things that have worked in our lives and that we're incorporating that's actually benefiting us.
Right.
And so hopefully those will benefit you too.
The point is that you can eventually work your way off of the medications. Most people can do that. Maybe not everyone, and I do understand that, but most people can. And I recommend, of course, that you seek a good nutritionist doctor, a nutritional doctor, not just a regular MD, though you should see your MD as well. But your regular MD typically does not know that much about nutrition. They know more about drugs than they do nutrition, so you got to find that balance. Now for us, I took us off things one at a time. I didn't just quit everything cold turkey. And then when it came to the thyroid medication, I weaned us off it slowly. I didn't just quit it. Now I have a lot more information on how we did that, and you can find the video series, and I'll link to it right up here, where I talk about going pharma free and some of the different changes we made to our diet, to our lives in general. So don't just say, oh, Heidi says I can stop taking my medication. So I'm glad he threw that in there, because that's not what I'm saying. And we did do it on our own without the help of any kind of doctor, because we don't have a nutritional doctor out here. And so for me, it was my own research and study, and a little bit at a time, taking things, doing away with the toxic medications while I added in more beneficial herbs in the form of teas and whatever else, and tinctures and homemade supplements and whatever like that, to help compensate as our body relearned how to produce thyroid on its own and not being dependent on the synthetic medication. Now, one thing I do want to add is if you've had your thyroid gland removed, it's very likely you cannot stop taking medication. However, you need to get away from the synthetic thyroid and talk to your doctor about getting on a natural form of thyroid, because there is a natural form. It is more expensive, but just like with buying organic foods, it's going to be more expensive, but what's the payoff in the end? You're paying less for medications, or because the synthetic thyroid medication is going to lead to more other medications down the road. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're just on the natural thyroid, that's not going to have the same kind of side effects as Synthroid or the other synthetic thyroids. So just look into that. It's a big part. Detoxifying in so many different ways. Now, some of the other areas would be like your skin creams, your shampoos, toothpaste, and anything that you use externally. You have to remember that anything you put on your skin or you use in your mouth is going to get absorbed into your bloodstream. So if you're using fluoridated toothpaste, you might think you're just putting it on your teeth. No, it's getting absorbed into your gums. And fluoride is very detrimental to a lot of your adrenal glands, your thyroid, and your pineal gland. And your skin creams, your makeups, your shampoos, your conditioners, they all have so many really terrible ingredients that every time you're using it, you're still getting it absorbed into your bloodstream, so you might as well be eating it. And so these are all things that we either make ourselves or we just don't use, period. And the same thing goes with deodorant. Now, the areas that we still need work on for sure is other things around us. Like we have carpet that I know is just full of toxins that one of these days we got to get rid of and go back to the hardwood floor that we know is under there, that was in there when this house was built. And with our clothes, we're trying to make sure we're switching more things over to just cotton and wool and things like that, and staying away from anything that is nylon. We still have a lot of that stuff. That's why I say it's still a work in progress. Here's the other thing I want to say is do not feel overwhelmed when you realize that you need to start detoxifying. And that just start with one thing at a time. If it's simply just saying, okay, I'm not going to buy Jiffy cornbread mix anymore. I'm going to learn how to make my cornbread from scratch with non-GMO cornmeal. Then start there. And then maybe the next step is, okay, now I'm going to learn how to make my own bread, yeast bread, from scratch. And I'm going to start making my own soups from scratch and not buying the stuff in a can. Just take it one step at a time. Do not feel overwhelmed, because if you feel overwhelmed, you're going to be more likely to give up. One step at a time, baby steps is often the best way to do it, rather than going cold turkey, unless that works better for you.
Yep, some people can go cold turkey.
But it can be quite of an expensive process to go through and strip out your whole house, get rid of all your clothes, and then start from scratch that way. It can be pretty expensive. So that's why another reason why it's a good idea to start small. The chickens are on the deck again and getting into my flower pots. Naughty girls. All right, now some other areas, if this video isn't already too long, is the air you breathe and the water that you drink. We don't have complete control over the air that we breathe, and we're certainly not going to stop breathing because we know there's toxins in our air. However, there's ways that we can counteract that. And one thing is getting lots of good, getting some good house plants. Aloe vera is one of the ones that's on the top of the list of detoxifying your air. There's like 5 to 10 plants that are the top best. Now, any house plant is good at detoxifying your air, but there's certain ones that are way up there. I know that the aloe vera is number one. The snake plant is another one, and there's quite a few of them, so look those up and get as many plants in your house as possible. And aloe vera is just one of the best, because not only is it great for detoxifying, you also have this really wonderful medicinal plant growing all over your house. I have like 5 or 6 of them in my house, and so it's detoxifying our air. Plus, I've got a medicine right there for burns and various other things, and I've used it to make my own homemade shampoo. I added in there, and a few other things. So at least start with the aloe vera. Another good thing that I'm going to recommend that I always forget to mention, and is the Himalayan salt rock or salt lamp. And I have several of those around my house. And I think I have like 4 of them around the house, and some of them I keep going all the time. You know, especially like I said with our carpet and some of the other certain things in the air, I know that this is at least going to help counteract the toxins that are in the air. And and then the water. That was the other thing, is if you're drinking city tap water, I highly recommend you stop. Even if your city tap water is not fluoridated like our city tap water is fluoridated, it's still going to have chlorine and other things in it that Mr. Rain would know all about. He could probably tell you all the kind of chemicals that are added to that water to take out the pathogens. Well, we don't want pathogens, but there's other ways that you can have good, healthy water that doesn't involve all these chemicals. Such as for us, we collect rainwater and we use the Berkey filters to filter out the water. Now, we don't use the standard ceramic Berkey filters on the tap water because it's not going to take out the fluoride, and maybe only takes out a small amount of the chlorine, if any. You're going to need special filters if you're filtering out your city tap water to take out the fluoride and the chlorine. So you'll need to look into that. But if you have a good well water, then that's wonderful. Then you don't have to worry about it. And even some of the distilled and spring waters that you buy in the store, They're not the best choice either because they're stored in plastic for long periods of time, and that plastic leaches into the water over time, and so I don't recommend that either. So do the best with what you have, and we still use our tap water for other things, for washing and stuff, though I'd prefer not to, but that's what's available to us, but we just don't ingest it. All our coffees and teas and everything are made with filtered rainwater.
You have now a chicken.
The chickens are being naughty. So if you're interested in more of this kind of stuff, again, go check out that playlist, and we'll be doing more videos down the road about detoxifying. Now I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to Mr. Rain because he has an area of detoxifying that he would like to talk about.
Well, a lot of folks don't think about this, but detoxifying doesn't necessarily have to involve just what you ingest. It's what you experience. And number one is stress related, and number two is fasting. So stress and fasting are two really important things that you need to consider in your lifestyle changes. Detoxifying, when you come to fasting, doesn't necessarily mean you have to go 6 months without eating. It could just mean you have to cut a certain item out of your life for a certain period of time. Go back to that later. Too much of a good thing can kill you.
Right.
And the other thing that I want to mention is stress related. Stress can be a factor in cancer. Stress can weigh your body down to where the good foods that you're putting in there, well, yeah, they're going to help you, but you need to try to remove the toxic environments that you might be in that will
Absolutely.
hamper your ability to reason or to just even make healthy choices. I mean, if you're in a toxic environment, mentally or even just physically, the stress that comes from that can actually affect your go-to-itiveness or your ability to actually make those changes and stick to them.
Right.
Self-discipline is where
Right.
I was going with that. So you say you want to become farmer free, or you say you want to start eating healthy. Well, all that takes effort, ambition, drive. And if you're constantly being pummeled with a stressful environment, then you're going to be gravitated towards, well, I'm going to eat light. I'm going to eat easy tonight. And easy isn't necessarily the healthiest way to eat. Mrs. Rain touched on that. So fasting and stress are two very important factors that you have to consider. Your discipline, your actions.
So stress, no matter how good you're eating, no matter how many wonderful homemade skin and hair products you're making that are completely natural, if you're in a toxic environment, those things will help counteract it to a certain degree, but not completely.
Well, a toxic environment could be anything from problems that you're having, a death in the family. A lot of these things we can't avoid, but perhaps there are things that you can do to minimize those stressful situations. Resolving issues with the family or loved one, practicing do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Things such as those are detoxifying effects that one can incorporate into their lifestyle in order to reduce stress. Doing things that you love to do. There are things that we have to do that can be stressful. If you can avoid those things or minimize those things, by all means do it. If you have a stressful job or any situation that might involve relationships with people outside of your family or whatever like that, if they're not a healthy lifestyle, if you have friends that have bad habits, that have a tendency to suck you into those bad habits, you need to consider adjusting those relationships or completely getting rid of those relationships and go to a healthier environment, relationship wise. Sometimes, if we have, Mrs. Rain and I have been married for many years, and we try not to irritate each other. I joke around with the whole frying pan thing, and for the record, she's never actually struck me with a frying pan.
I've never even chased him with it.
I try not to encourage
Except in a
that,
video
once. We have a lot of fun with that, and anybody who's been watching our channel, they know what we're talking about. But anyway, the truth be known, we just need to treat each other as you would want to be treated, and that can go a long ways in detoxifying your life.
Right. Yeah, good point. Well, I think that's about it in a nutshell, as best as we can get it into a nutshell, which is actually overflowing.
We could talk for a long time on this kind of stuff.
Yes, it is a very, very big topic. So again, if you'd like to be a part of this collaboration, please let us know. Don't forget to mention that it was started here, and let us know about your video so that we can add it to our own playlist and get you out there too. Mm-hmm. All right, well, I think that's it. So thanks for watching.
Take care.
And God bless.